Hey everybody, this is the Drive On Podcast, where we talk about issues affecting veterans after they get out of the military. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and now let's get on with the show. I want to talk about veteran entrepreneurs. I read an article the other day that said veteran unemployment is nearly twice the rate of civilian unemployment. And that's crazy. Being a veteran gives you so many skills that your civilian counterparts don't have. Getting a job should be a breeze. The problem, though, is that your civilian counterparts had time after high school to go to college, or to a trade school, or start a job and work their way up the ranks, learning as they went in whatever job that they went into, while you were off serving in the military. Employers don't want to necessarily have to train you on how to do a job when you get out of the military, when they can hire some 18-year-old kid who just got out of high school to do the same job, and most likely for a heck of a lot less pay. So what does that all have to do with veteran entrepreneurs? As a veteran, you have a tremendous amount of skills that can make you a great entrepreneur. So you shouldn't necessarily have to struggle to find a traditional job if you can make one on your own. Now, I know running a business isn't for everyone, and I'm not suggesting that every single veteran who's getting out of the military needs to go off and start their own business. Definitely not the case. But it is worth considering if you even have the slightest bit of interest in it. See, maybe you are capable of running a business. Let's take a look at some of these qualities that veterans have, that they tend to possess, and how you can leverage those qualities or those skills as an entrepreneur to grow a business or start a new business. All right, first off, veterans are great at managing risk. Now, granted, being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily have the same life and death consequences that you might have faced while serving in the military, but running a business has a good deal of financial and other types of risks involved. Many other entrepreneurs are very risk adverse. They tend to avoid these risks at all costs. And while this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it can hurt these other entrepreneurs because they're not taking advantage of the rewards that they can gain by taking a calculated risk. And now, I'm talking about a calculated risk as opposed to just doing stuff without thinking and just jumping in and diving in and being a little bit reckless and careless with your decisions. These calculated risks are sort of like how we were taught to plan for missions, right? All the possible scenarios that are could be coming up are put into this planning process so that we're not caught off guard when something goes wrong. Imagine now, as an entrepreneur, you're bidding on a project. And in this bidding process, you'll probably research what it would take to complete this project on time and on budget. And you're going to know all the resources that you need, all the personnel, all the equipment, time, and everything else that you're going to need. You're also going to know to anticipate mistakes that might pop up and cause some setbacks, right? So if you're bidding on a project and it's a $10,000 project, let's say, you might know, okay, in the past, I've done similar projects, and on occasion we've had a little bit of an issue in certain areas, and it's run up the tab another couple $1,000. So let me build in a little padding, a little wiggle room for us, so that way we don't end up losing money on this project that we're working on. We end up making money. Even if everything goes smoothly, we'll make more money. But if something goes wrong, we'll still make money because you've built in that padding, that an extra couple $1,000 maybe. So instead of bidding $10,000 for this project, maybe you're bidding $12,000 or $13,000 or something like that to cover the little bit of mistakes or overruns that might cause these setbacks. During the process of coming up with this proposal, this bid for this project, you're probably going to come up with goals, like checkpoints along the way for your project, right? Think about when you're on a mission and you had to go from point A to point B, you tended to have other little sub points kind of in between. where it would help you to stay on course, to make sure that you weren't veering off course, right? And these goals for your project are kind of the same idea, right? You want to identify if this project is going off course early on so that way you can correct it and get back on course, right? So we're talking about these mistakes that might come up and things that might end up costing more for a project. You might have a week where you're spending lots and lots of money and it was way more than you were anticipating spending at this point in the project. If you're taking a look at these checkpoints, these goal points, you'll be able to figure out, okay, at this point I was expecting to only have spent $5,000 on this project, but at this point I'm at $7,000, so I'm way over what I was expecting. I need to do something to kind of get back on track in the next couple weeks on this project to make sure that it doesn't go too far off course. Veterans are also good at getting things done with limited resources. This is a huge asset to have as an entrepreneur. When you first get started, unless you have a few other partners and maybe other employees or stuff that are working with you right off the bat, if you're like a lot of other entrepreneurs, you're probably going solo for the first little bit of running this business. And so when you first get started, you're probably going to be wearing a lot of hats. And I know in my business, I've been everything from the boss to the janitor to the accountant to everything in between. I've kind of run the whole gauntlet of all the things that I could be doing in a business. Now, a huge asset is being able to prioritize the projects that you're working on or the tasks that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and identify which of these things that you're doing you should be working on in order for your business to be successful. If you can identify which of these things will have the biggest impact on your business, it'll have a much bigger benefit than if you were to just focus on the noisiest, the squeaky wheel getting the grease, right? You want to focus on the thing with the highest impact, not just that one thing that's causing the most noise. I saw a picture on social media the other day talking about how to get things done with limited resources. The picture was of a soldier holding an MRE cracker. And on this cracker, the soldier wrote down a list of things that his squad needed. It was written on the cracker with a pen. Now, notably, one of the things that was not included on the list was a notepad, but it was still creative nonetheless, right? He was given a task to come up with a list of things that his squad needed, the things that he needed to come up with, for maybe a supply run or something like that. And he had nothing to write the list down on. So he found a cracker and he wrote it down on the cracker. Now, hopefully it doesn't rain or whatever and cause that cracker to melt away or whatever. But in a business setting, you might need to figure out a way to finish a job or to accomplish some task with the limited number of resources that you have available to you. It may not be the most ideal situation, right? Writing on a cracker isn't the best situation. Obviously, a piece of paper in a notepad or something like that would be much more ideal than writing it down on a cracker that could break and crumble apart or could get wet and then no longer be legible, right? So it might not be the most ideal situation, but it still works. It still gets the job done. So in business, you might want to think outside the box a little bit, the way this soldier did with that cracker. You might need to think outside the box and be able to figure these things out, whereas a lot of other entrepreneurs might see this as a roadblock, a point where they can't get past, they can't continue through. A lot of times veterans will be able to push right through that and see this as an opportunity to do something, to get a job done, to finish a project or a task or whatever, where others might not see a possibility to do that. That's another benefit that you have as a veteran. Now, I'm not trying to say that veterans are these unique superhumans that are the only people around that can do this type of thing. That's not what I'm really trying to say at all. But given the situations that a lot of veterans have been in either in combat or other training that they've gone through, they tend to become very resourceful. And I think that picture that I was talking about on social media that I saw with that soldier holding the MRE cracker is a good example of the resourcefulness of veterans and how they can make something out of nothing in some circumstances. Veterans are also really good at operating under pressure. Nothing teaches that better, I think, than that old saying from your marksmanship training, the saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. When you're shooting, if you're all wild and out of control, it's going to be very hard for you to hit your target. You might get lucky, you might hit it, but it's so much better to slow down, aim carefully, and go through the proper mechanics of pulling the trigger, have the proper sight alignment, having the correct breathing, so that you can actually hit your target. And just like in running a business, if you make a fast, rash decision when, for example, a customer calls up to complain about something that's happening in your business, you're going to have trouble seeing the big picture with what's actually going on. Right? So, for example, a customer calls up and something's wrong with a project. Right? Someone did something that they weren't supposed to do in the project, and the customer's calling and they're complaining about it. So you, as a business owner, you have a couple options. You can try to satisfy that customer and go and fix that one thing that they're talking about. Go and, that thing that wasn't supposed to be done, go and undo it or fix that thing. And sure, that will probably fix the issue, temporarily. It certainly will, satisfy the customer for now. But what's the underlying cause of that thing happening in this project or this, whatever the thing happens to be? Well, what's the underlying cause of that? It might be that maybe your whole team or the people that you had working for you on this project weren't all on the same page, right? If you knew, as kind of the boss, right, as an entrepreneur, you kind of fill that role. If you knew that there's a certain thing that wasn't supposed to be done quite yet, and then ended up happening, it might be a lack of communication between yourself and maybe the managers on this job or the other people working on this job. By slowing down and not just jumping into action and jumping to go do something, you sort of figure out what the real root of the problem is. So you can treat that problem instead of just the symptoms of having that extra task being done that wasn't necessarily supposed to be done. That ends up causing the problem, but it's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem in that scenario was communication issues, as opposed to just jumping in and fixing the fact that something was done that was not supposed to be done. Business owners need to be proactive. They need to have self-discipline. They need to be problem solvers and have leadership abilities. In my opinion, a lot of veterans check the box on all of those qualities. And now, again, being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. It's a difficult job. Oftentimes, it's way more hours than you would work in a comparable job as an employee for somebody else. But it's very fulfilling at the same time. I want to talk about an organization that's actually run by my parents. It's called BRAVE, which stands for Business Reviews and Advisors to Veteran Entrepreneurs. While my parents have never served in the military, they always had a great respect and appreciation for those who have. They realize that the country does a great job at teaching veterans or those in the military how to put the uniform on. But there's a lot left to be done when teaching veterans how to take the uniform off after they get out of the military. My father has run a consulting business since 2001, and prior to that, he worked as an executive at a large corporation. And his consulting business that he runs now has worked with many household names and have helped their leadership teams think differently about how to optimize their business. And he's done a great job at increasing the profitability of some of these businesses and reducing costs and expenses in unnecessary ways. It's a very strategic way of thinking. And through Brave, this organization, he and other advisors are offering free advice to veteran entrepreneurs. It's free advice, no cost to the veteran, to anybody for that matter. No matter where you are with a business, it's something that they can help you with. Whether you just have an idea for your business, or you've been slowly growing your company for a few years, Brave can help review your business plan. Or if you don't have one yet, you just have that idea, they can help you come up with a business plan. Identify who a target market might be, or things along those lines. And they can help set you on the right path for having a successful business. Brave is not a nonprofit. It does not solicit donations from anybody, and it doesn't accept financial compensation of any type from anybody. It doesn't want donations from corporations, doesn't want donations from other individuals. It doesn't want money from the veterans that they're helping. They don't accept any money at all. So there's really no risk. If you have an idea to start a business, if you have a passion, something that you're really interested in, that you think might be a good idea for a business, give them a call. Through this organization, my parents are simply trying to give back to those who sacrificed for our country. If you think this sounds like something that might help you in your business, or your idea become a business, if you want to learn more about Brave, because this sounds like something for you, visit the website, 4, thebrave.org. So that's 4thebrave.org. And it's not spelled out 4, it's the number 4. And I'll link to that in the show notes. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On Podcast. If you want to check out more episodes or learn more about the show, you can visit our website, driveonpodcast.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Drive On Podcast.